Konnichiwa, my yabai squad. Welcome. That was the most. Sorry, that was really like weeb.
Cringy, yeah.
I want to do a take two, but I don't edit the show. So welcome to the show. Welcome to Kanpai Chronicles, where we drink, talk, and chat about all things Japan, inside and outside, with your host Norman and
Holly.
Yes, and with that being said, we might as well start off the show with a little crack of the beer.
Crack?
Yeah.
Crack, like crack cocaine.
not that kind of crack, sorry. And kanpai. So how is it?
It doesn't taste like coffee. It doesn't taste like coffee at all. It just tastes like beer. I fucking hate beer.
You know, you didn't have to start off with beer, right? You could have just gotten a different drink.
No, this is, maybe this will be my awakening. I'll become a beer person thanks to podcasting.
That is definitely
I'll become
not
like when I was grabbing this morning, I was like shifting around the house, making sure like no one was watching me like grab a beer from the fridge to take to my room at like 10 a.m. Like Holly's got some serious problems.
She's going through a lot. It's a lot, okay? Show prepping for the show is difficult, okay? You gotta drink it away, you know.
She works at a preschool.
All right, kids, you can take a nap now. I need a drink.
Yeah. All right, what are we talking about today?
Right. Yeah. Sorry for the slight detour. That's pretty much how most conversational podcasts go anyway. But to be honest, bringing in a can of beer is actually highly relevant to this episode because where we buy them back when we were living there in 2015, 2016, or when we were in our humble abode of Asakadai in Saitama Prefecture, when we are out to have, while, the full moon is out, when we're about to go crazy, we'd like to prep ourselves for a fun time. And the first place that we'd like to go to is either at a friend's place or at like izakaya, which, to be honest, we should also talk about izakaya another time. But
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So many memories at izakaya. But I like how we have ideas emerging as we're, talking about this out. So I think that makes the show a lot more human. Anyway,
yes.
To prep for a fun night, there is pretty much only one kind of building, one place where if any of us wants to get supplies to last throughout the whole night. Oh, and I just burped already. Whether there's alcohol, drinks, maybe some like ukon, like the what do you call that? Like the is it sweet potato or ginger drink that helps you like survive throughout the night?
The like, what was that called? Like something.
Yeah.
Chikara.
Yeah, chikara something.
Yeah.
It's like a tan orangey bottle, like this small or something.
Helps you not hopefully get blackout.
Yeah, it helps you survive, right?
Yeah.
We get all of these things at the convenience stores, and if you have not visited Japan before, convenience stores in Japan are pretty fucking overpowered. Like
a high class establishment.
Yeah, you can get anything and everything there. Like the only thing is probably like, I don't know, drugs and guns. I don't know, like something like that.
I mean, maybe some back alley service, but
that's too fucking convenient.
You need some illegal shit, go to your local Lawson.
So I, thought it'd be cool, and Holly, you know about this as well, to just talk about everything related to convenience stores and how much of a role do they play in, one, Japanese society, two, back when we were living there, and three, on a more macro scale, just how convenient are convenience stores. First off, I have to say, Family Mart, #1 convenience store in all of Japan. That's where my heart is. Family Mart. I don't know.
Why family? Like why? You know why?
Because they have that greasy ass like chicken, like the fried chicken that you get on the counter.
Oh my god, there's so many memes about that.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so good. It's so good. There's a reason why, right? memes are like a reflection of what's true. There's like a little bit of truth. That's why it's funny, right? Like that's why comedians work, because they like to make truth
Oh,
funny, right?
that just reminded me though. Hang on, I'm gonna interrupt your speech, but
Okay, Kanye.
um one of the like most I feel like shame that I felt going into like a combini, aside from being like belligerent. Actually, this probably happened when I was like belligerent because you want like a snack to put in your stomach, at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And it's going in and ordering like a corn dog because in Japan they're called American dog. And so you just have to go in and this is this like scuzzy ass American going in like wasted like American dog and just like shuffling out. But yeah, they have a bunch of little like greasy treats just like right up front that you can get. I didn't eat the chicken too much though.
Okay. It's because like every chicken establishment in Japan has no oil in it. It's so healthy that I hate it. Like I hate it when it's too healthy. And and we got a couple other people who like, from the Sakare dorm and pretty much every other student that we've talked to who
Mm.
have quite a number of comments about the quality, the chicken experience in Japan. And not I mean, there's some places that are just pretty great fried chicken stuff, right? But
Mm.
like I come from Malaysia. We breathe on oil. Like everything has oil in it. So
Careful.
for me,
You're gonna tip off the people in my country.
okay. And I put
Oil?
a
Oil?
could a bald eagle sound effect somewhere in here. Like so we expect to be fat after we eat, like we bite a piece of fried chicken. So I go to start living in Tokyo, and I try KFC, and everything is so healthy and it's dry,
Mhm.
and it just tastes like meat, but meat doesn't work well by itself. It needs to come with that fat shit. So the only way was to go to Family Mart, and I think I just fell in love with Family Mart ever since then, because
You
no
found your
other
grease.
because I found my crease. I found my home in Family Mart.
I felt like that too when like about how the Japanese like food in Japan just tastes healthier.
Yeah.
When where did they open it? It was it had to have been my first semester if you were there. But they had just opened their like first Taco Bell like in Japan, and a
Mm.
bunch of us went. And I remember like when we were all sitting down to eat it, and I was like, "Ah, this tastes like proper. Like I could make this like at home. Like this isn't gonna destroy me. Like this is not the Taco Bell that I crave. Like I'm not gonna be curled up in a ball at the end of the day. Like what have I done to myself?" So I guess I get it. I get your desire for pain, I suppose.
Yeah, like some things you just want to eat or drink to feel worse after you take it in, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's why we're like drinking out all night or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
At least during those times. But I know, like, besides the chicken thing, I mean, Family Mart is pretty great and all, but 7-Eleven has always been a convenience store that I've always associated with Japan 7-Eleven being like the best one ever,
Mhm. Mhm.
because of the circumstances surrounding it. I don't know about your school routine, but like my school routine tends to be like going into stores, grabbing something that I can eat on the go or to bring
Mhm.
with me on the way. And when we were at Rikyo, it was just so great to go in for a tuna mayo
Mhm.
onigiri or rice ball,
Oh, the
uh,
fucking best
just
one.
in the corner of
Yeah.
7-Eleven. It's just amazing experience, because you go in, you pay, and you get out, and then that's it. But
Mhm.
everything is conveniently placed, like you can see, like it's pretty strategic. But
Mhm.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it was pretty similar to me. Like unless I wanted I got into like a phase because we had like that Mr. Waffle like in the Ikebukuro station.
Yeah.
So I did get into a phase where I would go there quite frequently when I'd go to like school in the morning. But either that or was it 7? It might have been a Family Mart. There were a couple different like konbini on the way to school because they're on like every freaking street. So there was one in like a side alley that I used to go to because I had this like fucking konbini cat there, and I would want to go there to like stop and see the cat. But then there was the one that was like closer to school that everybody would go to for like lunch and stuff if you were just grabbing like a quick thing. And sometimes in the mornings, like I would do the same thing, like get like an onigiri or fucking melon pan.
Oh, melon
Oh,
pan,
I loved
so good.
melon pan so much. If I could find a melon pan around here. Mm. And then like milk tea. Like what's the brand?
Royal milk tea.
Yes. Yes. Those. When I worked at a Big B, I tried so hard to figure out how to like replicate royal milk tea, just like every day experimenting with like my free shift beverage, trying to make this thing, but I never truly succeeded.
You needed that Japanese flavor in there. It's also
Yeah,
like the environment, right? Because sometimes that affects the taste, at least for me.
that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. So like for me in Malaysia recently, a Don Quixote opened, like a
Oh
really huge
yeah.
one, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I checked it out just like maybe last month or last 2 months ago, and it was just like a Don Quixote. So for those who don't know, Don Quixote or Don Quixote, that's in Japanese, is a play on the name of the book by Miguel de Cervantes. And Don Quixote is a giant discount department store where you can find anything and everything. That also includes drinks and snacks. So I found a place that I can get royal milk tea from, which is fantastic. But it turns out that when I drunk it here, it wasn't as refreshing as when I drank it in Japan, namely because of the the weather. It's pretty humid here, whereas in Japan, if you drink it in say in spring or in autumn or in winter, and if you get the hot one, like a hot one in winter, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Uh, now I just want to go just visit
I
all the
love that
convenience stores.
too, like how everything like changes, like with the seasons, like
Yeah,
what you can find, and then like the special items and stuff. And then in the winter, they have their like hot drink section, like they keep it hot for you, and you can just walk out of the store holding this nice hot beverage, or like the fucking vending machines.
yeah.
The fact that those like had hot drinks and stuff in them too just blew my mind.
Oh my god, yeah. I used to buy the hot royal milk tea bottles from the vending machine as a hand warmer
Mhm.
to put it in my coat.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I would use that. Yeah, I would do that for winter, and I'll be like, oh, it's getting a little bit like cooler, but it's still warm. Okay, I better drink it now. So
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
double functions. I love it so much. God, it's so convenient. It's unbelievable. The more that I'm remembering, like the more that we're talking about this, the more I'm starting to remember memories of like embarrassing moments in convenience stores. I don't know if you've
Ooh.
had this because I've had a few uh, with the cashier that the cashiers that work there, especially in either in 7-Eleven or Family Mart, because I went to I went to Japan. The first time I went there was actually way earlier. It was in 2010 actually, and it was a school trip. So it was a big group of us. We were touring, whatever. And I actually went to the convenience store at Ikebukuro Station
Mhm.
where when this happened. It was me and two other guys. Oh, sorry, no, this didn't happen in that trip. It was another trip. There's another uni trip with friends. Oh my god,
Get it
shit! I'm getting
together.
my years. I'm getting my years mixed up. Oh god, I've been to Japan so many times. I'm such a weeb. Anyway, this is 2013. It was a couple of uni friends. I went with two guys, and we were in Ikebukuro, and we went to the convenience store there, and we wanted to get a few things like some snacks. So like onigiri rice ball, and I think alcohol, whatever. And at the time, we had a lot of change. If you've been to Japan, you know that they love their coins. They
Oh,
have like
yeah.
a coin for every, it's like, I think it's like 10, 25, 50, 100, 200, 500. I think
Yeah, I
that's,
think so.
I think it's like that. Yeah. Like there's pretty much nearly as many coins as there are fingers on your hands. So we don't know the notation at the time. Like I wasn't really, my Japanese still was not good at that time. So there's 3 foreigners, right? It's like 3 Australian guys come in and we're at the cashier and we're trying to pay for all this with just coins. And we just have this big bag of coins. And then the guy was so patient and he was like, can you just put all the coins down on the countertop and I'll count for you, because obviously you may not be used to Japanese coins. But he didn't say any of that. He was just implying it. He was just like, oh, put down. Right? He was just noting, like motioning with his hand, right? But then we were too busy. We were paying attention to like trying to count the coins in the hands. But then he ended up like, he actually got mad. He started like banging the table. Like he was like, like I never had a Japanese person tell me hurry the fuck up without saying hurry the fuck up. It was pretty funny, and we actually got scared for a little bit. I think he was just mad. But I think that ended up becoming the very first memory of my experience being in a convenience store there, because as much as it was pretty clean and everything was crystal clear and, you know, easily noted what's cold, what's hot just by blue and red. Mm-hmm. When it came to paying, it's a different story.
I was really grateful because I thought that was going to be like my biggest issue. I was thinking about this the other night, actually. I don't like register even like in like my native language and like numerals and stuff like that. Like I don't register numbers like as quickly. It takes me some time to process. So I was like, oh shit, like how am I gonna like pay for stuff in Japan? Like I'm just gonna be at the register all the time. Like literally, like you were saying, like staring at it like but I liked how in Japan, like they, at least for me in my experience, I think pretty much everywhere I went, they had like the sign, like it shows you like how much you owe. And so like when they would talk to me, I just like wouldn't even, I would just like look at like whatever my total was and go from there. But there was one time, it wasn't at a konbini though, it was like some like random store, and I went in and I was like gonna buy a necklace, and the girl was like telling me how much it was, and I was like a 0 off, so I thought she was saying it was like $30, and I was like, oh, that's not bad. And I went to like go pay for it, and then like the thing came up and it was like 300, and I was like, I was too embarrassed to be like, no, never mind, because I had just asked her how much it was, so I was like, fuck, and I just decided to like buy it. And it kind of worked out though, because I got like some like prize shit. So I got like some random like fucking tickets to Disney and like some other like random shit. So maybe like it all worked out like for like how much I spent. But I was like fucking mortified. I was like, fuck.
What's the Japanese for? You done fucked up. Like
yeah, right. Whoops.
Yeah.
Something random I just thought about too was that I was blown away that you like, at least for us, like you pay your bills at the konbini. Like I could not fathom that. Like, you know, I don't know how it is in Malaysia, but here, especially for like things like rent or utilities and stuff like that, like we'll just pay either a company or whoever we're like renting and stuff from. So when I went to Japan and they're like, yeah, you just pay everything. Like you just go to the konbini and then like the cash register like rings you up. Yeah. I was like, what? You just go to your local corner store.
Yeah, that was insane. Like to me, that's a huge shock.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty sure it's the same for the both of us in both US and Malaysia. We get the bills in the mail or whatever it is, and then we pay either online or we pay directly to the company, right? Like I don't go out of my way to 7-Eleven and be like, hello, what do you want? And I'm like, no, I want to pay my electricity for the following place. Like, no, it doesn't compute. So when we got the bills and I was asking I think I was asking Kojun about this. So Kojun, one of the residents for our Asakadai dorm, as mentioned in the previous episode, and he was like, just pay at 7-Eleven. It's okay. They help you. They help you. Come. I come with you. I'm like, what? Why do you have to come with me? I'm like, yeah, just come. So I went with him to go pay the bills, and I forgot what it was for. Maybe it was electricity, or maybe it was something else, but it was some kind of bill. And we literally passed the paper to the guy, and then you just look at the cash register to see what the number is. It's kind of weird because if you put it that way, the convenience store is the only one stop, like the only one place for not only convenient items that you can get at the shop, but how to make everything, like how to make living convenient.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna segue here and go into like Holly's graduate school. What's the word that I want? Adventures.
Yeah.
A book that I had to read. This is just conveniently sitting here. I didn't plan this. But it's like Convenience Store Women by Murata Sayaka. Apparently it's like a national bestseller. The author worked at a convenience store for like a really long time. And so she writes this book about a character that works at the convenience store. She, I think it's into like her 30s in this book. And so she's facing kind of like Japanese societal like expectations on like what it means to like be a woman and then also a worker.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a couple papers about it my first year in grad school, like how the convenience store in Japan, it's like the fucking backbone of society. Like,
yeah.
And it's something that you don't even like really think about. Like, I doubt that most people going about their day to day even imagine like how much it would affect them if suddenly like every single convenience store was closed. And like the workers there and everything too, like this is something that I'm interested in, is just like the working class and stuff and how they're treated. Like people typically see like the convenience store worker as like nothing like that special. It's like a dead end job sort of. It's like the equivalent to people here like working at McDonald's or whatever, even though they get paid a lot better than anybody else anymore. But I lost my train of thought. But yeah, like I don't know, like that's just so because the convenience store was just this cool like thing to experience. Like when I was there, I didn't have any particular like deep thoughts about it. I was just like, bomb ass food, just going and getting my like alcohol from there. Like it's so cheap. And then like after I came back and I've been reading more like Japanese literature and stuff like that, I'm like, oh wow, like this, like I want to see a day where just all the convenience stores are closed. I want to see a day like that and just observe like how the people are, like what they think and how it just affects their like routine.
That would really suck because, like you said, like the store is the backbone of society, in that you don't have to deal with many other entities, especially if you're living somewhere and you just have a store nearby. You don't have to deal with any other company if you can just pay and interact and contribute, etc. If everything can be provided at this convenience store. And now that you bring that up, actually, I would actually love to read that book sometime. If you just pass me the link later. And also for our listeners as well who may want to take a look at the book as well, I'll try to find a link to that book in the show notes. That speaks to the depth of the word convenience in Japanese culture compared to, say, both the cultures of yourself and myself. When I look at like 7-Eleven here in Malaysia, it is just exactly like how you said it. It's just I go there to get a couple of things and then that's it. I don't base my lifestyle or the sustaining of my lifestyle around my interactions with the cashier at this convenience store because the level of convenience stops at the certain items that I will get from the store. That's why I will go to 7-Eleven. That's like for that. Whereas in Japan, it means a lot more. It means like there's a greater necessity for the convenience store. Because at first, when I was trying to think about this episode, one angle I was trying to think of was, will convenience stores take over like mom and pop stores, like small time convenience stores and like small time shops that have like, you know, similar things, but more of a local brand or maybe even cheaper items. Sorry for the sneeze. And will they take over? And I would say yes and no. There are two different arguments for that. One is that because they're the backbone of society, I think the way that they will try to protect the stores nearby would be so that the convenience stores prioritize convenience, and then the mom and pop stores prioritize locality. So
yeah,
that's two different sets of audiences. So you'd have people who are searching for specific things. They know where to go, right? Instead of like me trying to get my daily dose of dango or like candy or, you know, talking with the obasan like every morning or something, but then I want to pay my electricity bills, or I want to get tickets for a concert, which I did.
I think, I forgot about it. I thought that was crazy too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also pretty cool. Another feature, which I do have a story for that. So once upon a time, I was a huge K-pop fan. And
once upon a time.
Yeah. And in Australia, I ran a K-pop club or a
Let's
society.
insert your like K-pop photos.
Oh God, no. To be fair, I posted one of them like on Twitter recently. So that's a pretty. Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Look
it
at
was just
you.
like like my long blonde when I had platinum blonde hair. It was down to my shoulders. So, and I look pretty K-poppy. Anyway, by the end of 2014, I was president of that society, and then 2015 I moved to Japan, and that was a completely different, you know, change in environment, etc. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll focus less on K-pop and more on just immersing myself in Japanese culture. But I still had, you know, some small dose of K-pop in me. I went to get tickets for K-pop concerts. I had my friends help me with like going through the machine, because there's like a ticket purchasing machine and like a printing machine. Like they print the ticket for you at 7-Eleven and all that. That was pretty cool. But the one crazy story is that my favorite K-pop idol had her solo debut in Japan in the second semester. And I had my friend help me with purchasing the tickets so that I can get a ticket. And I went all the way to what's the place with the Gundam? Odaiba, and waited 7 hours to go into a solo, like to go into a concert, like a debut concert with her.
Oh my God.
And then I got to talk to her and shake her hand, which freaked the fuck out of me. But that speaks to the convenience, because now that I'm thinking about it, I don't have to go online and purchase things. If I know the name of the event, I can go to 7-Eleven and be like, I want to buy a ticket for the following thing. I just type it in and then print, pay, and then I'm back home. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy how they've built this from a very long-term perspective, because it's like, there's like behaviors that we've taken for granted on the internet where we just purchase and then pay with credit cards, whatever. And they've been doing this for a long time with like 7-Eleven and everything.
Yeah, I think it was. Who did we go see with Sid and Jesper? Did we go see Showtech?
Major Lazer.
Yeah. That was the first time that I had like gotten concert tickets or anything in Japan. And I remember being down in the lobby, and I think it was like Sid was like scrolling through like on the computer, and I was like, yeah, okay, like let's buy them. And they're like, no, we gotta go like to the konbini. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, you buy them at the konbini, like you don't order it online. And I was like, what?
What are you, a foreigner?
Like, what? Like, what do you mean? And I like to think I'm an observant person, but I think this was the first time that I realized that like next to the ATM, there's like a like fucking fax machine thing that just does like anything you need it to do. And I was like, wait, you just like go up to the register and like say you want to buy a ticket, like you're ordering like a pack of cigarettes or something. And Sid's like, no, like there's a spot. And I think we all like went over there and I was like mine, like I had never even noticed this thing like sitting there where I pull out my money every day. Like, which is another convenient thing. Like all the convenies have like an ATM. And like at least in the States, you have to like search these things out or proper like go to the bank that has like your specific ATM. But I liked in Japan, since it's like a very like cash-based country, that like any corner, like you can just go in and get some money. That's just a random little side note there while I'm at it.
Yeah, the ATMs for me were a problem actually because it was such a huge cash society. The only way to get some is actually from a 7-Eleven. So if I'm out of cash and I'm like, oh no, I need to go get somewhere, I can't go to the nearest bank. I have to go to a 7-Eleven to get money out. Unless you have a bank account within Japan. I did, so that's not that bad. So it's just that sometimes there's no available ATMs for that specific bank, which is okay. It can happen. But yeah, once again, convenience, the depth of convenience in Japan is just much greater than the depth of convenience everywhere else, because now our convenience store is in our pockets, technically. Right.
Yeah.
Like the same device that you use to scroll through Twitter or Instagram or watch YouTube videos or TikTok is also the same place where you purchase tickets, look for new events to check out, maybe even buy stuff like online shopping, etc. But I feel like having a convenience store and then like an urban neighborhood around it, that convenience store is like the smartphone of that neighborhood, because you can just get literally everything there. It's just pretty interesting how they've actually built that architecture. I actually find it super fascinating.
And I love that, like, depending on, different places that you go, it's like you said, like, even though it's like a corporate kind of chain, they still will tailor things like to the area. Like, I remember when we went to Hokkaido, the like onigiri and stuff that they had there was completely different than like what they would offer like in Tokyo. So I remember coming back to Tokyo and being just like sad. Like they didn't have like some of the stuff in Hokkaido that I became like absolutely obsessed with.
Oh, you're making me miss Hokkaido. I love that place so much.
It's very beautiful. Very beautiful. Go to Hokkaido.
Yes, I highly recommend. 5 out of 5. Like if I were to have a place, it would be in Sapporo for sure. Like more so than, like, for me, if I were to have like if I had, we might as well go crazy with this. If I had unlimited money, and of course I'm going to be greedy with this, I'd have a place in Hokkaido, Sapporo in particular, and then a place in Yokohama, which is not too far away from Tokyo. So
why Yokohama?
No, I feel a lot calmer there. It's not too far away from the bustling of the Tokyo metropolitan area. But Yokohama, when you're there and you're actually walking alone, like I've taken a number of walks around there, and it's just really nice to just walk by the water.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think rent wise, it's not that expensive. If you want to
have unlimited money, you don't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, true. Like if I did that, I might as well just get like a freaking penthouse or something in Tokyo, and I'll be okay. And then like a log cabin out in like I don't know, like Nikko or
Bear
something.
Country.
Yeah. But as long as there's a convenience store nearby, I can pay my bills. So so here's one thing to consider. Since you've written papers on this, and since you've experienced it firsthand, the convenience of convenience stores in Japanese society. What does that tell you about how like the Japanese government or Japanese entities are running Japan? And how does that speak to the harmony and the convenience needed to uphold that harmony? I'm really curious about that, like from both our perspectives.
I'm a little nervous to speak my truth on this because I feel like I can be kind of like radical, but Japan in particular and how like society runs is completely like fascinating to me because it is a society that like really tries to have like its best face. Like
Yeah.
they want to put like their best foot forward. They want to like present themselves as kind of like some of the best like that there is. And how society kind of functions as like a whole is it's like you just aren't really creating problems for other people. Everything should kind of run smoothly, like nothing should necessarily like hinder anybody's day. You know, that's how it comes off on the surface, which I in some ways think is nice. Like when I go out in public in America, for example, something I'm always really disgusted by is how much like how far we take the concept of individuality. Um, I think it's amazing that we have like the mindset where we feel comfortable expressing ourselves and our opinions and things, but I feel like we cross a line with it where it becomes you know, into an area of just disrespecting everybody and everything around us. So something that I really love about Japan is that they really try to give that essence of, you know, respecting people and wanting like peaceful interactions and stuff like that. However, under the surface, it still creates a very like isolating um type of life. Like the convenience of Japan makes it very easy to be alone and be in your own little world. Um, for all the things that I find beautiful and convenient about Japan, um, they are also a tool that I would find super convenient for when I wanted to isolate. Like, you know, you can go to the konbini or to a supermarket or something and buy like a made dinner and stuff at the end of the day. Um, it's not weird in Japan to go to places alone. Like if anything, it's almost more convenient to do things on your own. Like if you're going to like get ramen or go to the store or something like that. Um, train rides and stuff, you know, like you're quiet. It's not really like you don't hop on the train to like go socialize and things like that. Um, and so all these conveniences and like the way that society is supposed to run in such a smooth way, I feel like not intentionally, but it's created a society that in its own way is very self-absorbed, but in a different way than like America is. Like I was writing a paper on the like sarin gas attacks that happened in like 95, and I was reading Murakami has a book Underground. Um so in one of my classes we were learning about like cults and stuff, so I decided to write about them. And listening to the stories, like the firsthand accounts, because Murakami went out and he interviewed people that were there. And because people don't want to get involved and it's convenient to do so, you see a lot of people that are kind of left like struggling. Like even when I was there, I would see sometimes like in the summer or something if someone like collapsed because you know it's like so hot, people don't typically like go over to like see what's wrong and like help this person. It's kind of like, oh, that's not like my problem. Don't get involved. I don't want to like burden anyone or myself, or I don't want to embarrass them, this sort of thing. Um, So I don't know. Like there's such a, I think, fine balance between extremes that I think just humans in general, like we don't know how to get there. Um, yeah, if all that makes sense. I kind of went on a spiel.
It does. To me, it does. I resonate with a large majority of that perspective because I've seen that firsthand.
Mhm.
I've also experienced it firsthand. Just
Mhm.
how easy it is for me to go to a convenience store, get everything I need, and then go back to my room and
Mhm.
not interact or be in the presence of another soul for the entire day. Um,
Mhm.
Now, if you have that intention, it's great. Like the convenience store is just there to provide that ability for
Yeah.
you or that opportunity for you. But the fact that it's readily available,
Yeah.
to me it's the fact that it's readily available, like the fact that it's 24 hours available, it's what scares me. um the the ready-made bento boxes.
Mhm.
Oh Lord, could sneeze.
Bless you.
Allergic to convenience. The bento boxes that are available, right? You have whole dinners that you can immediately
Mhm.
start eating as soon as you just pay a couple of bills and then you go back home.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
the hot and cold drinks, the extra shirts, the underwears, the pants in case something happens in the
Mhm.
stores, the bills that you get to pay. Like living can be done in the house, and then upkeeping that living can be done at the convenience store. So
Mhm.
you can be born, grow up, live, and then die just with those two buildings. The only
Right.
thing else is the school, so you can learn, and then work where
Mhm.
you earn money, right? Like
Mhm.
that's such a simplistic framework for like living and dying that it kind of scares me, because not only does it also, I wouldn't say encourage is the right word, but more like it lowers the barrier for that framework to happen.
Yeah.
The convenience stores that are designed this way speak to the frantic expectations that people have
Yeah.
in regards to how can they contribute to the society there, as
Mhm.
if like they need to have those ready-made meals because they know that people require that kind of confidence,
Yeah.
convenience, right? Like
Yeah.
if I like you go to America, you don't go to America for you don't go to a 7-Eleven in the US for a ready-made meal.
No. You
You
go for
don't.
like a pack of cigarettes
Yeah, it's just small
and
things,
yeah,
right? Right.
a soda. Yeah.
Yeah. The convenience in the convenience store in say the US or in Malaysia rather, it's pretty much the same. It's it's more of a it's more of an addition, because that addition leads to a level of convenience. If you're missing just
Mm.
one small minor thing, that's okay. Whereas in Japan, the convenience that they're trying to answer to, or they're trying to answer the demands to, it's more like I have a frantic, fast-paced life, and I need a
Mhm.
store that can be as efficient as I need it to be, because I
Mhm.
will never stop. I will never slow down. So
Mhm.
honestly, like seeing this convenience store work like a cog in this machine is so amazing, but it also
Yeah.
scares the shit out of me, because that dehumanizes the experience of living. Like you
Mhm.
like I don't need, like I can wake up, go to 7-Eleven or like Family Mart, and then like get my fried chicken, eat my fried chicken,
Mhm.
go to the train, go to work for 12
Mhm.
hours, then come back on the train, then grab food from Family Mart or from 7-Eleven, and then go back home. And
Mhm.
the world will not know who I am, but know that I have paid money, I've earned my money, and I've earned my keep. And then that's it.
Yep.
Right. Pair that with the values of, if you try to stand out, know that there may be repercussions.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
this convenience store is like, it's more like in some angles, it looks more like a barrier than it is to a, and like an efficient solution.
Yeah, and like I love that you said like cog in the machine because that's the kind of like phrase that I use in a lot of what I have to write about talking about these things. And you pretty much, described a day in the life of like, the Japanese salaryman.
Yeah.
He wakes up, he probably gets a drink and some breakfast from, his local konbini, goes to work, probably has lunch from the konbini, maybe goes out with like colleagues or something. And then, they work so much, he's probably not even getting off work till like 9, 10 p.m. Grab a drink and a little bento from your konbini on the way back. Like, and, it's like you said, it kind of, not only is it a thing of convenience, but it is also quite possibly a tool to allow such a, is meticulous the word that I want? Just this sort of like mundane, like life, like society, and especially ones, particularly that are so deep into like capitalism. That's the whole point. It's to go and work a bunch, and then to spend that money back into your economy. And I don't know. In terms of like that, like it's so depressing. And the convenience store just is, as you said, like another piece, a piece of that uh, machine in the lives that we live.
Yeah, you've just sparked a memory in me. And I think I need to confirm this, but I think my cousin used to be a salaryman in Tokyo. And he would
Mm,
talk about these loops every day of just
mm,
waking up just to work and then going back home very late. And then, you're just so tired that you're just exhausted and you just sleep. And when you wake up, it's work again. And it's just the
yeah.
same thing over and over again in the same place. You need convenience stores because that's the only way
Hmm.
to have a pit stop that can keep up with the speed in which you are going.
Yeah.
Right. It seems like a band-aid for working at this point
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
all you want is just go in, pay money, go out. I'm not saying like, give me a 5-star dinner when I'm at 7-Eleven. I mean, to be
Right.
fair,
Right.
like a greasy fried chicken at Family Mart actually feels like a 5-star dinner to me. But
Right. Right.
but but the like even if the machine itself is very beautiful, like the system of convenience stores in that society, the fact that
Hmm.
it's a representation of the expectations people have. In order for you to have this level of convenience, in order for you to have this level of efficiency, you have to compromise, introduce more mundanity in your life. It
Right.
be, flatten out to this collective society, like extremely collective society, rather.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
very patriarchal as well, and also very hierarchical, which means the power
Yeah.
distance is great, right? You cannot
Yeah.
speak
Yeah.
back to higher power entities, whether it's at work
Mhm.
or on an individual context. So if you choose to be in that context, it's addictive to have a convenience store
Yeah.
nearby. It's crazy. It's like your morning coffee. Like, like
It
the
is.
day doesn't
Yeah.
start until I get my coffee.
Instead
Like,
of Starbucks, you go to the konbini.
yeah, exactly. Right. It's just like the Tommy Lee Jones black coffee bottle. I forgot the name. Boss Coffee. Yeah, there
Oh
we go. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Who was always drinking those? Was it Esper? Did Esper get those?
Maybe we'll have to ask him.
Someone in McKim always had those, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, because you can get it from the vending machine right nearby. Yeah, and then in the end, right? Like vending machines are just. Luckily, vending machines are only just selling specifically what it is there for.
Mm-hmm.
Minus the one at Shinjuku that sells panties, but I think that's a
Yeah,
whole other
yeah,
thing
yeah,
altogether.
yeah, yeah. They got a couple weird ones out there. But maybe you need well, no, they're used, aren't they? They're selling
Yes,
used
they are
panties.
used.
I was
Yeah.
like, maybe you need a fresh pair of pants, but then I was like, wait a second.
No, the fuck you don't. Not from a vending machine. No. When was the last time you had to buy panties from a vending machine? You're like, oh, all right, take the train to Shinjuku and buy a new pair.
Had a bit of an accident. Just buy some panties right quick.
Oh, they're used. I'm feeling horny today. Let me just plop a 500 yen
Oh,
coin.
God.
Now buy a pair.
Just get a like UTI or something.
Just a disclaimer: I have not seen this panty vending machine. So for anyone
Yeah, you
listening,
probably frequent.
I don't know.
How many panties have you bought from there?
More than 10.
I think I saw
No, I'm
one,
just kidding.
not a vending machine, but you know how they have the like gotcha machines?
Yeah.
I think I saw one in like Nakano Broadway that had panties. And I
Gotcha
think,
machine?
yeah, a gotcha machine. And it was all like blacked out, so like you couldn't really like see anything, but it had its like description or whatever. I think I was with Charla and she was like, "Oh my god, it's for panties." And I was like, ah. But I never saw the vending machine.
Were you tempted to? Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Were you tempted to like
Oh,
play the
was
gotcha?
I? No. Like it's like a curious like thing. Like, oh, that's like for me, like it doesn't like bother me. Like I think it's kind of cool that people can make money off of selling their panties. But the desire to own someone's used panties is not one that I particularly have.
Yeah, me as well. Like, I don't know what I'd do with that, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
like
got
even like I was just thinking, I was like, well, is there any circumstance in which I would do that? Maybe if I was like wasted and like out with friends and they were like, go, I dare you to like go get some panties. Like maybe I would do that, but I wouldn't like take them home with me. It would be like a moment for the friends, like, oh, look at these. And then I would probably think about it later and be like a little upset with myself.
yeah, it'd be more like a prank, right? Like, or like a joke. Like
Yeah.
that's how I would be. Like, I wouldn't think like, oh, you know, I want to buy some used panties. Like I that would never ever cross my mind. Like,
Nothing against anyone. Like if that's, your thing.
yeah,
Like
yeah, true.
I'm not about like kink shaming. Like you do you.
Yeah. It's
But
that just gave me a really weird thought. Like, do you think about the logistics of a gacha machine with panties? So, like, if you're if you use panty supplier, and you're like, okay, for a bulk sell of 10 used panties, I will send it to this factory, and then this factory worker will pick up these panties and plop it together into a like the plastic capsule,
yeah.
and then the capsule gets sent. So there are these lorries or like these delivery men sending capsules of used panties to gacha machines all around Japan or any other country in the world, rather. I mean, I don't want to discriminate. Like, if there
Right.
are gacha machines in other parts of the world with panties, please let us know. You can tweet at us for that if you find any in the wild, right? Hashtag wild panty gacha machine. I'm all about
wild panty.
I'm all about that. I'm all about that wild panty gacha machine. Is that convenience? I guess it could be convenience.
I mean,
it's like you're outsourcing your perversions onto this machine, right? Instead of like letting crime happen.
And now like that could be kind of a level of convenience because like you were saying earlier, like for us these days, it's like it's so convenient to like go online. You can, click and buy like whatever. But maybe you don't, want that in your history. You don't want people to know that you're buying panties online. You just take a casual stroll down the street and you can just, quietly, discreetly buy some used panties. Like we should actually do a whole podcast on just sort of the sex industry in general in Japan because it's quite a fucking amazing service they have. Like, not to glorify that because there's probably so much like just emotional fucking labor that goes into that, but the services that you can find in Japan in the sex industry are fucking out of this world. It's like everything again, another type of convenience just available to you.
Yeah, sexual convenience is definitely up there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
In the realm of services as well, like if you just expand out that umbrella for that
Mm-hmm.
word, there's a lot of services available, not just
Mm-hmm.
sexual, like just in general, right? Like if you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
like from what's that called? Is it like hugging? Is it hugging?
Yeah.
There's this like intimacy place where
Mm-hmm.
you can have like lonely single men can have a woman hug them for like an hour or two, and you get paid.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid for it. So the convenience of receiving intimacy or receiving
Mm-hmm.
those feelings are just a couple of bills away. Like you just
Mm-hmm.
pay some notes away, and all of a sudden you can have this beautiful woman hug you.
Yeah.
Of course, when it gets sexual, I mean, you have a lot of like your sex industry can be pretty much there for all parts of the world,
Mm-hmm.
not limited to Japan. Um, I guess there's like a minimum viable convenience for these kinds of things, especially in the sex industry, where you have
Yeah.
brothels and prostitutes, etc. In Japan, I mean, we'll touch on it a little bit. In Japan, a number of the red light districts, as well as the I forgot the name of it. Is it salons? I think it's salons or pink salon. I think that's the name.
I don't
Where
know.
you
Like
have
I like Soapland.
yeah, there's Soapland. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's like when they wash you up in a very erotic or sensual way, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's called Pink Salon, where it's just a shop where if it's a shop where you pick a girl and that girl will give you all kinds of services, and the level increases all the way up to a blowjob. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the funny part about this, here's another point of convenience, and I'm pretty sure we can expand about this another time. There are university student discounts for Pink Salon.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a student and you're studying, you can get a blowjob for cheaper.
Oh my God. What the hell? Just
Yeah,
relieve some stress during
that
finals.
that is insane. It's crazy. I was offered that. Like a Japanese student told me about it, and he was
They're like,
like,
hey, let's go. That actually was something that surprised me when I was hanging out with a bunch of students from Hong Kong. Um, we were wandering about and they were like, at first, like you don't really, at least for me, I didn't really notice these things, but once you've been there for a while, like you start to notice like the salons are everywhere.
yeah,
Like they're not just in like the like red light districts, like they're just anywhere. And so a lot of my friends from Hong Kong would be talking, like they were like guys and stuff, and so they'd be talking about like how um like just casual and kind of like normal it is to just like go to the places like in Hong Kong, and like no big deal. Like when we hear about that like over here in the States, we're like, oh my God, what? But for them, it's just like, and I remember having conversations like, oh, like don't like if you have a girlfriend or something, like doesn't she like get mad? Like is that like cheating or whatever? And they're like, no, like obviously like it depends on the girl, but they were like, for the most part, like girls like your girlfriends are just glad that they don't have to do that for you. And I'm like, like fair enough. But like but that was something else that was really like maybe kind of like culture shock in a way to me. Um because I had with Japan specifically, I had pictured it more reserved, so to speak. And then when I got there, like sex is everywhere. Like it's not much different than like America is a very sexual place. Um so I was expecting like the opposite in Japan, but in some ways I felt in Japan like it's almost like more acceptable. Like for as much as like you don't really talk about it like in society, there's like a underlying level of understanding that like it's going on and it's fine, like it's normal, which I thought was neat.
as long as it's not being talked about in public, anything
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big one. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I didn't know about that, and then I learned it, and I'm like, oh, okay, unspoken rules. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't teach you that in textbooks. I didn't really see the
Nope.
chapter on how to have fun. Uh, there, and
Yeah.
here's things that you should and should not talk about. But that speaks to it, right? It's like most of the time, a lot of these are responses to what you lack or what you desire, and right now your current context or environment is missing or cannot provide you, so you find a place to provide it, like give that to you, and then you pay money.
Mm-hmm.
Japan has looked at it and been like, oh, okay, let's just make it super ultra efficient. So there's a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
shops happening all over the place, and as much as you want to keep face and make sure that everything is all well and cool, when you're walking these streets and the signs, you can tell that a lot of these places are not what they seem, or like it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
obvious what they are, and you're like, oh, okay, it's just
Mm-hmm.
they're just not horny on main, right? They're horny on
Yeah,
out, right?
right.
Like
Right,
so
right. You got to find the secret account.
yeah, you got to find their alt, right? So it's pretty much how it is. And I feel like if convenience is what helps the ones who would rather work or live alone, outsourcing services like these is just greater levels of convenience for these people who prefer doing things alone, or they would
Mm-hmm.
rather nurture or quench their desires through all these places online. So to all these places all over the city, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Convenience stores are just the ones that are at the most front end. You would
Yeah.
notice that like the neighborhood or the community can surround just one convenience store. And that actually just reminded me. I think either in semester 1 or semester 2, I forgot what it was when it was. I was invited to a seminar in Sophia University, I think, by a friend of mine, and she took me there, and she thought, oh, I think this is pretty cool because this is a lot about anthropology. I'm like, okay, cool, and it's in English, so it's even better. Well, we went there, and it was this, one classroom, and it was taken up by a number of students. And the lecturer or the person presenting is an anthropologist from the US who took the test to become an English language teacher in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a background in anthropology, and he was trying to study like a thesis for it. So
Mm-hmm.
he went to a town like in a faraway prefecture and taught English there. He noticed something pretty interesting, and I think I want to bring this up because I think it'd be pretty cool. So his experience as an English language teacher there lasted maybe 2 to 3 years. In maybe the first year, he was in this one specific place, and it was a rundown house, and it can get cold in the winter, whatever. But he would get his groceries and a lot of his convenience items at the convenience store. At the time, the town or the village that he taught English in wasn't really that big. So there wasn't really a Family Mart or Lawson or anything like that until maybe 6 months in. So he would go to the mom and pop stores, the local stores. And because he was the only white person in that town, everybody knew him because he stood out a lot, which meant that a lot of the teachers, the parents of the children that he's teaching, even the students as well, every time they see him out, they're gossiping about him because they're like, oh, he's buying broccoli today. What's he gonna make, right? Or like, oh, he went to this shop. I saw the American at this store today, right? Like he felt that there was like security on him 24/7. And then like half a year later, a Lawson actually opened up in that a little ways away from that town. It was like, oh God, thank God. Okay. Because that is when you can gain some level of anonymity, and then anonymity rather. And then he went all the way to Lawson to grab his groceries. So, and I think one thing to take away from there, other than the fact that he's actually trained as well later on to be a clerk in Lawson because he started working there. So he had to learn like I think 7 phrases. So he wrote the 7 phrases on his hand. He had to like memorize the 7 phrases.
Yeah.
That also speaks to like the roboticness of like a service
Yeah.
worker. But one thing that struck out to me was that in this instance, he wanted to be alone. He wanted the isolation. Like he wanted the get the hell away from me vibe
Yeah. Yeah.
by going to Lawson instead, because for any convenience store or shop where you're buying items, the community gathers around that shop. So word spread like wildfire, especially in the collectivist society. For
Yeah.
him, it was too much. So it was pretty
Yeah.
fascinating hearing his story.
Yeah, I loved like being in the city. Or, I would say I was just pretty like oblivious while like I was in Japan, like in Tokyo, because you're surrounded by so many people. Like you don't feel, I mean, I guess it's like both ways. Like on one hand, you feel like the main character of your own story, just surrounded by all these people doing shit in the city. But then also on the other hand, you can feel like a complete like nobody, like just kind of lost in like the masses and going about your like little mundane tasks. But yeah, being like the only person who's kind of different, I can imagine, like wanting to like escape that. And sometimes I would wonder that in like a Sakadai, like how used to foreigners maybe they were, and like dealing with like just the random antics that we would get into, like because I don't know how many years the dorm had been open, but for the most part nobody really like batted an eye at like us when we were like out and about, as far as I noticed. But I would think about it, because that's another thing like in Japan that I noticed is like you don't really like in the States, when we go grocery shopping, typically like we buy groceries for like the week. But in Japan, it was more like you go at some point during the day to get like what you need for the day, like the supplies you're going to make for dinner that night. You don't just have stuff like stockpiled up. And I never thought about like people commenting on like what I buy like from the store. And I've never thought about that. I'm like, oh shit, she bought another onigiri today. Does she eat anything else?
Is there something wrong? Does she need a diet? Yeah, maybe in that case, he just needed a little bit of city life just to separate himself from just how claustrophobic all the conversations are surrounding or talking about him. Like, I would hate it a lot if I'm walking down into a town and it's a very small town and everyone is talking about me because that's the only interesting thing that happened that day. Like, it's not like I'm a superstar or anything. Like, I'm just there to get groceries or whatever it is.
Right. Buy some broccoli.
Buy some damn broccoli.
Yeah.
Put on a newspaper.
I did have some friends that were like hyper aware of that. Like, if we had just had like a long night out and we were going to go back to like a friend's house to crash or something, I did have friends that were very aware of themselves as a foreigner. And so they would want everybody to act in like a very like strict mannered like way if we were around their town, because they want to blend into, Japanese society and save face like around their neighbors and the people there. I wonder if I had like a more adult life in Japan, if I would fall into that, or if I just wouldn't care. Because I remember thinking as a student, like, who cares? Like, you are a foreigner. You're never going to be Japanese. So, like, why do you like to follow the like politeness and things like that? I think like obviously you need to be respectful of cultures and things. But when it comes to like who you are as a person, like I remember some girls at Rikyo would talk to me and be like, "Oh, you wear like interesting clothes, like red pants or this or that. And like I wish I could dress like that. I remember being like, why don't you? Like, why not? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just not okay for Japanese people to do. And I remember that's something that always stuck with me because, like, that's who you are as, an individual, like how you want to express yourself. And I found that very sad that for the most part, everybody wants to blend in, I guess. Like people typically buy and wear the same things. But for me, I didn't have any sense of that as a student. Like, as long as I was being respectful and I wasn't, going out of my way to cause anybody any problems, I didn't care really about how people saw me when it came to being a foreigner.
You didn't need to. Like
Yeah.
we grew up with that thinking. Like
Yeah.
we've never the thing is we've never had to grow up thinking who we are in relation to everyone else. Um, although
Mm,
I'm a bit of a liar when I say that because like I mean I'm Malaysian. When I grew up, there's a lot of expectations in how we should be portraying ourselves, or
yeah.
how we depict ourselves is in relation to our family name, etc.
Yeah.
Although I got out of that pretty quickly when we moved overseas. In Japan, the thing is, these people are university students, so you can assume that they're like 19 and 20 and over.
Mhm.
So 20 years of getting drilled down in your head that you must act like this for everybody else, and that
Yeah.
is absolute, is kind of, well, I don't want to say insane. It is extreme. That's one way of putting it. Let's just say it's pretty up there on the spectrum of um like the relevance of your individuality.
Yeah.
When
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, at least for me, in the environment that I grew up in, I would say I kind of felt pretty similar in the aspect of like I in America, I had never felt like I could be myself. I had always felt like I needed to present myself in a way that other people like expected me to be. And I think when I went to Japan, it was the first time that I had ever felt like I was being my most authentic self. Um, how I, talk to people and being open about like how I am as a person. But a lot of that could have been just because I was in a place that I had never been before and nobody knew me. And so to me, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going into another society that is very like closed minded or something. It was like, oh, I'm away from everything that I have ever known and I can express myself as I am. Because I noticed the opposite as well when I was in my undergrad, I was involved with a lot of exchange students that would come over from Japan and helping them around school and practicing English and things like that. And it was pretty much the same with them, like they'll come over and we make friends and they're like crazy here in the States because they can be.
Yeah,
They don't have that stress of back home and they have to present themselves a certain way. And then, when you like some of them when I met them again in Japan, they're pretty different. Like they're more reserved and stricter with themselves.
it might be the influence of like the cookie, like the atmosphere.
Mm,
Because
mm,
I noticed the exact same in Australia. I think
mhm,
I think it was like maybe like 2 months after I finished my exchange in Rikyo, and then I came back to Australia to finish my last semester.
mhm,
And I think I was on my way to a morning class, and I passed by these two people who bump into each other, and then it turns out that they're both Japanese. So I just overheard the Japanese. I'm like, oh, right, there's Japanese people here. That's pretty cool.
mhm.
But then the way they talked was like super informal, very not Japanese.
Yeah.
And then they, from Japanese, they switched to English, and then their English was like perfect. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So all of a sudden there was a relaxation in their tone. Their posture was way more relaxed, and the tension was gone. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden you see their true selves, because they now know that they are in a context where, because they were not born there, they accepted that they are foreign. Therefore, they can shape that impression of who they are as a foreigner, because the word foreigner is so broad in its definition.
Right. Right.
I also see it a lot in Malaysia as well, just from like watching people who are living here. It's kind of strange because Malaysia is known to be a great place for retirement for Japanese people. So
Really?
yeah. So we're seeing more and more Japanese
Interesting.
people. Yeah. So there's some parts where it's like there are some like barbecue parts, like Japanese barbecue places here. Like you should totally check it out. Where you can just hear a lot of Japanese people. Like, oh, okay, cool. Pretty awkward, but okay, cool. Yeah, was not expecting that. And there's just some places where, you know, a lot of expats, but also notably a lot of Japanese people are there as well. When you talk to them, they're so relaxed. Yes,
Yeah.
when they talk to each other, they may be polite-ish, but when they're talking to like other people, they're like, "Yeah, man, how you going? How's it doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." So now the bonds of society are non-existent here, because you brought your family here. Your family was not born here. That
Yeah.
that unlocked this certain level, like this. There's this like mental gate that is now unlocked where, oh, I don't have to put up with expectations. The word expectation doesn't exist here. Of course, there's like the common sense level, like, you know, be polite, don't do crimes, whatever. But
Right.
anything more is now an addition or a premium,
Yeah.
and that you don't have to adhere to it. So I think that in itself is very liberating.
Yeah.
So that's like, it's just amazing when we see, like, if you just observe the same one person in their
Yeah.
birth country and then in a different country, and they're just
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
different characters, and it's just so cool.
It is wild. Like I think about even friends that we hung out with and the versions of them that I have memories with versus like what I see of them posting on like social media. And how do I want to phrase this? Getting to see like the crazy, like no, like just having fun, like side of people, and then who they are now when it's like people are like getting married and having families and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like
I think I know who you're talking about.
just like everyone, it's not even one specific, it's like
Okay,
a
yeah.
few people, or you know, having like in quote like proper sort of like career. Like it's crazy to me because I have memories of just this, you know, chaotic time like in everybody's life, that to see them in their home countries being so like serious and like a functioning member of society, I'm like, oh, wow, what the fuck? Because I don't feel like that at all. I feel like I'm still just as unhinged as ever, but maybe that's just me.
I want to say the same, but I think I also fall in that bucket at this point, because because not looking back at it now, the time there was pretty much a ticket to fuck around.
Right.
And then when you come back and then you graduate and then you're working, all of a sudden you become like you said, you become a functioning member of society. So with that comes a level of expectation, not cultural expectation, but rather a societal expectation, where it's just this universal, like, oh, you're working now. You have a brand, you have a face, you're earning money. You need to make sure you're good enough for society to let them give you money so that you can put food on the table. Whereas if you're in Japan on exchange, maybe you're not really bound by such expectations or such responsibilities. So to me, it's also surprising when I'm seeing like my friends who are, you know, they were just downing 10 tequilas with me every night on Saturdays back then, and all of a sudden they're like getting married and they're saying like, oh, I love you. It's, to
Yeah.
this one girl who's the one for them, and I'm like, excuse me,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know history, right? Like, whereas like other people getting married or having kids, or
Mm-hmm.
they are chasing after dreams, etc. I feel like I'm in that bucket as well, because I went crazy when I was there, and then I
Mm-hmm.
came back, and now I'm in Malaysia, where it's a place where I don't necessarily belong. A huge
Yeah.
disconnect. It's a different type of isolation. It's definitely
Yeah.
not positive
Yeah.
isolation. Definitely not the kind of
Yeah.
isolation that we're talking about this entire episode or this entire show. But I found solace in chasing my dreams or trying to build something for myself. And that the act of that is what is giving me meaning now. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
back then and during exchange, just exploring and messing around and just making so many memories with friends who were
Mm-hmm.
also on that, like, parallel wise. They were also in that
Yeah.
state of mind,
Yeah.
reciprocated that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just beautiful to see the timeline like converge and diverge, where for like people
Yeah.
where they want to go, and then we can just support them from, whether it's close or from far away. It's just
Right.
pretty cool. Like, I don't know, Japan is a pretty good haven for, I don't want to say soul searching because that sounds pretty trashy. But
Yeah.
uh, for let's just say for finding
I
the
think,
greediest desirable versions of yourself, and then figuring out what to do from there.
yeah, and not just with like Japan. Like I think spending some time in any country and culture that is not your own, especially if it's so opposite of what you've known. Um I think like that I think that's an experience that everybody should do. Um it you get so out of your comfort zone and you experience all these different things. And even if how we recall like a lot of our memories, it's just like fucking around and stuff. There's so much um like individual growth that happens to you as a person, just, with all the challenges and things like that. When I came back from Japan, I worked in my like study abroad office at my university, and it was pretty similar for people, that went anywhere else. Um I think just opening your eyes to the fact that the world is bigger than the place that you were born and grew up in, and also challenging, your own thoughts of what is culturally acceptable and what isn't. Um, I think that's something that like everybody should do. Like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day how different we are in like our cultures. Like we're still all human, and we still all have such like similar feelings and emotions. Like that was something, when I was feeling pretty like on my lower times in Japan, knowing that all these people from all these different countries and places that I haven't heard of were also feeling like the same way as me was really like motivational.
Yeah, and seeing them grow as well,
Yeah.
in like
Yeah.
hand in hand with you,
Hmm.
made it feel a lot less alone.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like, I'm pretty sure our experiences would be so different if we weren't in a Sakane dorm. Like,
Oh
if
yeah.
like maybe gathering the people might just take extra time,
Hmm.
but the amount of isolation, the expectations, the disconnection from the society, the amount
Hmm.
of convenience and the hyper fast pace that everyone's up to,
Hmm.
all of that takes a toll after a while. You take it for,
Yeah.
at first you're like, you get the euphoria from the shock. And then all of a sudden you're like,
Right, right.
yeah, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, right. With that
Y
comes a lot of work. With that comes a lot of,
yeah.
mental strength that you require just to get by each day. And
Mhm.
as much as we can revere about our experiences living there, not every day was a great day. Like, I have a lot of days where I was not in the best of mind, and I would escape by doing something stupid. And
Right. Yeah.
I found solace in being alone, and sometimes it's a 7-Eleven or a Family Mart fried chicken and a beer
Yep.
and cigarettes.
Right. Right.
It's interesting because in this case, the convenience store is like a double-edged sword because it's so good at helping you be alone, but
Yeah.
then it's so good at reminding you, or it's so good at encouraging loneliness as a vice that you should
Yeah.
escape to if you need
Yeah.
help. It's pretty crazy, but
Yeah.
still fun
It's
and
nice when you need that.
yeah.
But it does suck when it is just like enabling you. Like second semester I spent a lot more time on my own, and one of the things that I liked to do, what I would just, go into like Ikebukuro and buy a drink and go sit at like Westgate Park and just watch people. Um
Yeah.
and I would just sometimes like take a like notebook and journal or something, but just watch people in a sort of like I'm alone but not really like sort of way. And I think those were I think like at the time like they feel pretty lonely, but when I look back on my experience, I think those were some of my like favorite moments where it was just me and my thoughts and making connections about things. Or like if I was sad, like after a night out or something, a little alcoholic depression. And as like the sun comes up and like I could just go to the kombini and like buy a snack and a water and go sit and like watch the train or something and just, you know, think about stuff and think like, oh, the sky is so pretty, like when the sun comes up or things like that. Like those moments of being able to just conveniently get something and have time to myself were really nice. But there absolutely were times, like you were saying earlier, where I would just be like, "Oh, I don't wanna see anyone. I don't wanna do anything." Shuffle out real quick and hope no one sees me as I go, like, buy some food and, like, hoard it into my room and, like, disappear for 2 days. But, yeah.
I mean, it's convenience at its finest quality, right?
Mm.
Like if you need it, they will give you everything. But if you're trying to escape life there, and we all need some level of escapism sometimes.
Mhm.
Sometimes the convenience store is like the devil giving you a deal that you should not be accepting, but you will anyway.
Selling your soul
Yeah,
to Lawson.
for a fried chicken. Or for Family Mart, like my soul for a Family Mart fried chicken. Like I need.
For
Oh my
an
god!
American dog.
If anyone for an American dog, I forgot that's the name for it. Isn't it? I thought it was Frankfurt, right? Frankfurt or something, whatever. Yeah,
No, no, it's American dog.
yeah. Or just get a couple of rice balls and then be on your way. Or if
Mm.
you're on a trip, then you find a convenience store and you're like, oh, that's your meal, right? That's lunch,
Mhm,
right? Like
mhm.
you ever consider like instead of a restaurant or something like that, it's like, oh, if you see the red 7 and then the yellow, the orange and the green, all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's dinner, right? That's
Yeah, they got some bomb salads and stuff in there that you can get, or like pastas and things.
yeah, it helps. It helps. And I think that level of convenience only works in that kind of society. I think so. Unless
Mm,
like maybe in Malaysia, but we have a lot of cheaper hawker stalls and cafes and restaurants, etc. Like if I'm trying to imagine me paying bills at 7-Eleven, it's a possibility. Um, me getting a lot more food options is a possibility. We're getting more Family Marts with actually like the oden and the matcha ice cream, the soft cream
ooh, yeah,
and rice balls itself as well. But it's not as a it's a little bit it's premium-ish, so it's a little bit expensive. So
yeah,
when you want like a big part of convenience is price, right? Like
right.
So in a rice ball in Japan, at least from 7-Eleven, it's like 140 yen. So that's like
Yeah, like $1.
$1.50 Aussie dollar. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So it really depends on the context. I don't know. Do you think a convenience store at Japanese convenience will work well, like where you are?
In the States, I'm gonna shame my people, but like people are assholes here. Like I feel like no matter what convenience could be provided in America, it's not going to be enough. So I think if some buildings started popping up where you could do all these things at, people would be like, well, why do I have to go there to pay my bills? Why should I have to do that? Or like, okay, if it functioned exactly like in Japan does, it'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
well, why can I only buy this one thing during this season? Like, I feel here it's more normal to find fault in things than to be grateful for like what it actually is. So I think there'd be a lot of people that would be like, oh, this is cool. But I feel like we used to have a lot of 7-Elevens, but they pretty much all kind of like died out. Like you can find some in some of the cities and stuff, but most of the like more rural ones we don't have. I feel like a convenience store, if they started popping up, would be met with the same energy as we feel about like a gas station, where it's kind of like a seedy place or you just run in and like grab something real quick. I don't think it would be met with as much admiration as the Japanese convenience store is.
To be fair, when was the last time I actually admired a convenience store other than other than when I lived there? I mean, I don't think I've ever went to a Kmart or a 7-Eleven here in Malaysia or in Australia, rather, any of those countries, and be like, whoa, this is the best 7-Eleven ever. Like I wasn't expecting like like a freaking robot waiter to like guide me on
Yeah,
where I want to go.
like I don't even go into gas stations like in the States. I feel like gas stations for me are the closest things to like a convenience store. And I don't go in there. Like it's scary. Like even just the other day, like if I go and get gas and I can't pay at the pump, I'll go somewhere else. Like I don't want to
Okay.
go into the convenience store. But even just or the gas station. Cuz like even just the other day, I went to like go fill up my car and this random guy came over to me and he was like, "Hey, I don't want to like alarm you. I don't want to scare you, but this person over there in this truck is like watching you." And I was like, oh, "Fuck." Okay, thank you for telling me. And that's how I feel places of convenience kind of get in the States is it becomes like a breeding ground for nefarious things. So I'm not sure how well it would go over here. And people here, it's almost like if something is supposed to be really nice, there's also this expectation that it needs to be expensive and for like a higher class. People don't treat like affordability with a good mindset. They automatically think it's like trashy because America's backwards. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's also another angle that I never thought about actually. In Japan, it's everything is cheaper in convenience stores
mhm,
because it's probably subsidized. A lot of the
mhm.
policies are like, oh, national health insurance.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
right? That's another level of convenience. Oh my God. I mean, have you ever had to pay for medicine? Like,
Yeah,
or doctor's appointments? I just
yeah,
remember like I barely paid for any of mine when I got
yeah,
sick. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my
Like I
God.
went to the hospital once and I think it was like $20. And I was like, "What?" Like anytime I have gone to like the hospital in America, like it's at least like 300, like
Oh my god.
at least. And so when I had to go to the hospital in Japan, I was like, fuck. And then it's like $20. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
Well,
they treat you really, really well there. I mean, a lot.
mhm, mhm.
It's like if you look at the hierarchy of needs, right? It's like a lot of what you need is just pretty much provided. Like
Yeah.
something like a hospital visit for $20. That $20 is negotiable if it can save your life. Like you don't
Yeah.
care about how much you're paying. You're not going to be complaining to, the I don't know the name of the like the public health society or branch or
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
to be like, oh my god, I paid $20. What? Why didn't you make it 15? Right? Or something like that,
You're
right?
right.
Whereas it's the norm to have it like, a couple $100 or wherever in any other country in the world, unless you have
Mm,
something like NHS or national health systems. I think
yeah.
UK is the same as well. It's interesting because I'm not sure if it's something people are expecting it there in Tokyo,
Mm,
but I don't foresee that kind of convenience happening in Malaysia for me
mhm.
because of the huge distinction between, say, public and private,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like the policies, they start to fragment a lot. So when it fragments, it means that the rules are just way more complex. All of a sudden, whether you're getting treated for a cold or whether you're getting vaccinated, that's even another thing that's been popping up these days. Or if you need to
Mhm.
go for a hospital visit, like the hospital to your left and the hospital to your right can make the difference between how much in thousands of dollars are you going to be paying, just
Yeah.
because one is either public or private, or the level of subsidies happening. Like how much convenience is the people running in charge of the nation is providing you so that you can keep on working as a member of society.
Mhm.
What are they
Mhm.
prioritizing? It's pretty interesting, and we're all just threading this from like 7-Eleven or like a convenience store. It's just
Right.
pretty
Right.
cool, like just talking about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a segue back to this fine novel. Like, I've read it a couple times now, and each time there's like something else. Like, it's just on the surface a freaking story about a convenience store worker, but it just like in this conversation, like so much plays into the things that we think are so small. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that greatest takeaway, like convenience stores are the backbone, and they pretty much reflect how do people, how are people treated in the
Mhm.
context, in the environment. Like
Mhm.
the fact that the convenience store in one country is so much deeper than the convenience store in another one speaks to the level of convenience,
Mhm.
um, complexity, how
Mhm.
much thought is put into the point of this building and the implementation of it, like from a macro, like international relations perspective. That's just pretty awesome. But on a
Right.
more personal level, like for a more individual level, you're not really thinking about that, right? You just want to go get your noodles or like your cigarettes or
Right.
something, right? Like I just want to get my
Yeah,
just
yeah.
want to get my freaking chicken and then like fuck off.
Yeah, yeah.
Or get my like what do you call that? Is it like yuzu acerora? Like the blue colored bottle that's like 15%
Yeah,
alcohol or
yeah,
something? That
yeah,
was
yeah.
disgusting, but I always got it because it was
So
cheap.
disgusting, yeah.
Yeah. Just standing right or like eating the
Yeah, how did we not even talk about we're gonna have to come back and have a whole thing about alcohol sometime.
yeah,
I'm surprised we didn't.
alcohol
Woo.
drinking culture.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's do that for the next episode because
Okay.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Okay.
And I may have a sake bottle downstairs, so I can probably like
Hey.
dedicate that to this episode. But with that being said, we're coming right up on time. But you know,
Mm.
uh, is there any thought that you'd like to get us to put in our heads for now? Once our listeners are finishing up with this episode, Holly.
No. My brain is fried. But I'm like, I haven't had a deep societal chit chat in a while, and now my brain is like capitalism. Ah. So
Yeah, I guess one thought I'd like to have for our Yabai squad over here, if you're listening, when you walk into a convenience store or when you walk into a shop, whether it's local, international, like some franchise, I think one thing that you should consider looking at is mapping out the experience from A to Z of you walking in, browsing, getting what you want, paying for it, the convenience of the entire experience, and then walking back out, and the amount of time taken, and also the reason why that building exists there in the first place. You will, like, if you dig deep enough, you can actually start to reverse engineer the architecture of the country, because we can see that, like, we spend up to 2 hours, I guess, talking about how convenience stores can play a part in this.
yeah.
It's pretty cool. Like, it's also just a really fun exercise. But I think one really awesome thing would be, no matter where you are in the world, how the country provides convenience for you helps with defining your place in that society. And then it's up to you to decide, is that a place that you fit in? Is that a place that you agree with, disagree with, etc.? And with that being said, I think we are done here.
No, I want to add one more thing going off of what you said.
Go ahead.
I think another thing to look into when you're going to these places that are just a minor, convenience in your day to day, you should also consider the people that are working there and providing that convenience for you. It's so easy to, look down on people for jobs that we don't consider, to be of any societal worth. But where would that convenience be for you, if it wasn't for those people? I think that is something that others, especially in higher positions, should consider when they go out and they get services.
When they're getting serviced.
Okay.
Always ending with a beautiful note and ruining it with a very trashy one. But that being said, we're coming up to the end of this episode of Kanpai Chronicles. This is your host, Norman, and
Holly.
Thank you so much for listening. You can always, if you take time to subscribe to us in your favorite podcast listening app, as well as give us a review if you're listening up to this, as well as the previous episode, either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or also comment, right? I think we have we're trying to make it so that we have the video version up on YouTube as well. And, we'll try our best to read up with all the comments. Also, let us know what you want us to talk about. I think that should be pretty cool for somebody else to.
Yeah.
I think we've already got a number of suggestions coming in, especially from Holly's friends. But let's Holly, let's try to make the next episode to be about alcohol. I think that'd be the most interesting.
Yeah.
That being said, take care, kanpai, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.